Recently I've come under fire for tweets that I've made regarding another YouTuber, and I just wanted to go on camera today and say, I'm not taking any of them back. People are mad at me online, so it's time to make some money. I've got my hoodie, the more dramatic camera angle, my notes on my phone. I think we're ready to do this. Here's a couple of pointers. This entire thing happened in less than a week, and it also took place entirely on my Twitter and my community tab. So this wasn't some sort of private beef where it's he said, she said. We said everything publicly, and it's still there. I'm only going to talk about the parts I care about, but the YouTuber Wallace made a video about it where he screenshotted almost everything that was said, so you can watch that if you want to see the entire thing and how everyone reacted. It's no secret. I'm also going to be stealing his screenshots for this video because that makes my job a lot easier. This entire thing took place in 3 rounds, so here they are. This video popped up in my YouTube recommended called YouTube Sponsors. It's from the YouTuber Turkey Tom, and I clicked into it because it was there and I was bored. The video was mostly about YouTube sponsors, but I noticed some weird stuff in there.
Hello and shalom, my brothers. Being a merchant, an accumulator of wealth to hide away from my fellow man and look down upon the writhing masses in shame. Is making money fun for me? I mean, maybe a little bit, but it's more fun to burn bridges with any chance of future success that I would have.
The weird Jewish stereotyping was completely out of left field. Shalom, I'm a Jew, I like money, I collect wealth, Ben Shapiro, money. And the thing is, Tom is completely aware of how he came across because he even included this clip.
Okay, drop him, he's a racist and an anti-Semite.
So I did exactly that. I went to Twitter and I pointed out the anti-Semitism. So the YouTuber Turkey Tom threw a bunch of anti-Semitic imagery in his latest video, and it resulted in a comment section full of anti-Semitism. Wow. If you have to rely on racism for YouTube engagement, A, accept that your content is trash, and B, go screw yourself. I'm cleaning this up for YouTube, obviously. And to this, I attached an image of comments that I picked out from the comment section showing how people were in fact being quite anti-Semitic. A lot of people had a lot of things to say about that, but the main man, Turkey Tom himself, replied saying, I am not an anti-Semite and there is no anti-Semitic imagery in my video. Now, to make it clear, I didn't call Tom anti-Semitic because I don't believe he is. My criticism was exactly what I said, which was that shoving that imagery in your video to pander to actual anti-Semites is low. He obviously denied it, but the issue here is that playing dumb like that doesn't really work when he himself acknowledged that he was coming across as anti-Semitic in his own video.
Okay, drop him, he's a racist and an anti-Semite.
The fact that it was a joke doesn't change what's happening, so I didn't let him play dumb. I said, look, I get that you're either an idiot or pretending to be one, but your comment section is filling up with anti-Semitism for a reason. If that's the crowd you want to associate with, go for it, but just keep in mind that sane people have a zero tolerance policy for your BS. Now, I would like to emphasize the middle part of that tweet. If that's the crowd you want to associate with, go for it. I put that there because I meant it. It's up to you to decide what content goes into your video and subsequently who you're pandering to. No matter how you want to slice it, he put the content in his video, and I'm not here to stop him from doing so. Mostly because I literally can't, but I'm definitely here to share some thoughts about it. Then Wallace, the guy whose screenshots I'm stealing, tweeted out, darn, I thought you were pretty cool, but now you're lying about what Turkey Tom said in his video and falsely accusing him of promoting bigotry. That's pretty effed up. I posted that on my community tab with the caption, currently getting canceled on Twitter, be sure to follow me, which was obviously a joke, I wasn't losing followers. I was just using the situation for some Twitter promo. The best way to wrap up round 1 is by reading the comments left on that post. Someone said, I don't believe that Turkey Tom is anti-Semitic. He made some jokes in that video that were edgy, but I really think the problem here is with the crappy people in the comments section. He shouldn't pander to those kinds of people. And I said, this is my exact opinion as well. And that was in fact my exact opinion. A lot of people disagreed with me, but whether people agreed with me or not doesn't matter. I said what I thought, and I didn't appreciate Tom making it seem like I was accusing him of being anti-Semitic, and he has no idea why, when he knew exactly what I was implying. But that was the end of it, or so I thought. 24 hours later, it was Thanksgiving Day. I don't really do much on Thanksgiving, so I was reading the comments that were piling up on my tweets and posts. Many people were pointing out that Tom is only 17, which I didn't know when I told him his content was shit and to go fuck himself. Tom doesn't show his face in his videos, and from watching the one I did, I just assumed he was an adult. So for the record, I am sorry that I worded it that way, but I'm not sorry for the tweet itself, just the way I worded it. And if I could redo it, I would make the exact same point minus all the unnecessary words. As for the comment, some people 100% agreed with me that he was intentionally pandering to racists. Other people didn't agree that he was pandering to racists, but still pointed out that there's no real reason for those jokes to be in the video regardless. And then almost everyone else thought I was just reaching. They weren't picking up any malintent from Tom whatsoever. And outside of what I criticized him for and how he reacted, I wasn't either. I didn't think he was some closet racist who says a bunch of awful stuff behind closed doors. I just assumed he was going down a very unfortunate path with his content choices, and he should be well aware that it's more obvious than he thinks. Well, it turns out it was the best of both worlds. After my initial tweets, people who knew him personally came to me and said he's casually discriminatory in everyday conversation, both publicly and privately. Now, initially, I was just sent screenshots where someone had collected instances of him saying the hard R N-word in a group chat with a bunch of weird censoring. As awful as this looked, it didn't really prove anything besides the fact that he says the N-word casually, which, okay. But I still needed the context, so I asked this person to actually prove it was Tom and show me what exactly the conversation was. And they did. The N-word stuff was literally the most random ever, with my favorite example being, niggers don't talk, they just say chicken. Okay, there's also more stuff about Jews, with him explaining that his higher Patreon tiers are for Jews with deep pockets. So as you can see, the greedy Jew jokes in his video a year later didn't come out of thin air. That was a lot, but at the same time, the person who came to me was obviously biased against Tom for some reason. So I myself went to another person who knows Tom and asked them about the screenshots. I just wanted an explanation, but that person sent me even more screenshots and pointed out videos in which Tom had been documented saying stuff like burn the niggers publicly on Twitter. So at some point, you have to call it. And I called it. I said, happy Thanksgiving, we're eating turkey Tom. He thought we wouldn't be able to see his racism through the thin veil of comedy. Meanwhile, he's doing this in everyday conversation. So allow me to repeat from yesterday when you tried to gaslight me. Go F yourself. And to that tweet, I attached my favorite screenshots, which were, my new name is going to be niggers, I hate niggers. Oh well, I'll eventually call someone a nigger too many times, or I'll bully someone enough. I doubt you'll hate me. Niggers don't talk, they just say chicken. That one is actually funny in its absurdity. And don't pretend like it's something for your fans, lol, it's just a tip jar for Jews with deep pockets. In regards to his Patreon. Once again, Tom responded saying, damn bro, DM messages that are a year old? Very classy. I'm edgy, probably too edgy, but I'm not racist. Too edgy, but not racist. It's a creative way of putting it, and you know what? He's perfectly within his right to say so. So I didn't answer him on that front, but at that point, both of our Twitter followings got into a debate about whether or not it's racist to say I hate niggers, which is fun, but I didn't get into it because at that point, you're going to believe whatever you want to believe. I don't have time to go through but the word has a racist history. But iDub said it's just a word debate, because I already know where I stand on that, and I don't really need to change anybody's mind. Also, his assertion that the messages were from a year ago wasn't even remotely accurate, as one of the Discord messages was from less than a year ago, and the Twitter message was actually from about half a year ago, so that doesn't hold up. He's apparently apologized for this stuff in the past, or so I've heard, but these messages came after. So what's the point of apologizing if you're just gonna do it again? Speaking of that, in the video in which he apologizes, it ends with him doing it again right after. So the pattern is there, and that's why I said something. I didn't answer his I'm edgy not racist tweet, but I did answer a few other people, probably the best of which was the YouTuber Nicholas Diorio telling me that he unpinned my comment on his YouTube video because I'm just as bad as I'm Alex. I get what he's trying to imply, but I'm Alex falsely accused somebody of assault, so that's like comparing apples to oranges. And besides, unpinning a comment, that's the best you could come up with? Okay, but then Tom just went off in my replies. Not even my tweet about him, but the one about unpinning my comment. The point is that you're the same scum that you accused I'm Alex of being. Keep in mind that I've never made a video about I'm Alex, and my YouTube comment was really about Alex's fans. Anyway, the point is that you're the same scum that you accused I'm Alex of being. Someone that I clearly knew and trusted in confidence sent you those screenshots, and instead of DMing me and asking me if I was some sort of racist, they sent it to you. You know, when people say things like I hate niggers in any context, I'm not gonna stop and ask if they're racist, but even at that, I still did, and that's when I was sent even more garbage that you've said. So I'm sticking with my conclusion. He continues, the truth is you have no real integrity over this. It's no secret that I'm edgy on the internet, or that I say stuff ironically all the time. I was literally suspended on Twitter for saying something about women. You don't give an F about integrity, you don't care about racism. This is about you outing the big, bad, racist, Nazi Turkey Tom and collecting your Twitter likes off it. So you know what? F you. I'm not playing your little effing game where I apologize for being an awful racist guy. I appreciate the phone calls to my house, guys. Really cool of you. So there's a lot to respond to here, but we have plenty of time to do so. First of all, nobody's going out of their way to make him look like an awful racist guy. Except him. I didn't screenshot a bunch of his tweets and then rearrange the letters so it spells the N-word. These are his own messages. It's not like he said this in a one-on-one conversation either. How would you not know that people screenshot things in the group chat? I now have access to that group chat. And besides, he's posted it publicly on Twitter before. Secondly, trying to tell me that I don't care about racism? Have you not seen me? Like, I don't know if you noticed, but I'm like really pretty. And honestly, of course it was for Twitter likes, but that doesn't change my criticism or invalidate my opinion. We don't post things on Twitter for nobody to see them. Integrity is me saying what I think is true and then not backing down in this video just because some people are mad at me. As for the phone calls to his house, I'm not taking responsibility for that. None of my tweets or community posts, all of which are still publicly available, even implied that I want people somehow contacting his house. I didn't distribute his number because I don't know his number. I don't even have his real name. I just called him out from one creator to creator. Publicly, of course, because that's how 2019 works. And the last thing, big, bad, racist, Nazi, Turkey Tom. Who said anything about Nazis? I didn't even use the word or allude to it in this entire situation. I say, Tom put anti-Semitic imagery in his videos to bait people. He says, I'm not an anti-Semite. I say, Tom is racist for saying I hate niggers and things like burn the niggers publicly. And he says, I'm not a Nazi. He's either deliberately misinterpreting what I'm saying or just reading way too far into it. And guess what? That backfired. So, for a recap before the final round, both Tom and I had all of our opinions on the table. My round 1 statements and beliefs. Putting anti-Semitic imagery in your videos leads to racism in the comment section, and it's not good and you shouldn't do it. I don't think Turkey Tom is an anti-Semite though. His round 1 statements. He's not anti-Semitic, and there is no anti-Semitic imagery in his video whatsoever. My round 2 statements and beliefs. Turkey Tom says things like, I hate niggers, which makes him a racist. Attempting to mask racism with memes is ineffective. His round 2 statements and beliefs. He's not racist, he's just too edgy. Besides, the statements were from a year ago, except for the ones that weren't. In addition, I have no integrity, and he's not gonna let me make him look like a Nazi. Plus, saying the N-word doesn't make you racist. Which, for the record, obviously, it's in context. I don't think if you're reading Huckleberry Finn and your kid's like, what does that word say? You can't not read it because you're suddenly gonna turn racist. But anyway, this should all have been a big case of agree to disagree. Because at the end of the day, everything I just said was an opinion. They're contrasting opinions, but nothing makes mine or his more or less valid except bias. From my biased point of view, nothing Tom is saying is correct, and everything I'm saying is right. But looking at the situation objectively, he and everyone who agrees with his statements are just as entitled to tell me I'm wrong. That's why I'm not here to take back or add anything to what I said. I know I left out a lot of what happened, but again, I really encourage you to watch Boblax's video because it has almost every single thing I said. And as we know, Boblax doesn't even like me anymore. So that video is not meant to make me seem like the good guy here, just as I'm not here to do to myself. But obviously I can't completely avoid that. Regardless, that's the entire situation to the best of my ability. So you might be wondering to yourself, well, wait, what's round 3? You promised 3 rounds. Well, round 3 is quite simple. See, if Tom and I had had this conversation in a vacuum, or, you know, in private, but we don't do that because we're influencers, then it would have stopped at round 2. I think what I think, he thinks what he thinks. We all said what we said, and we're not taking it back. But remember, we had this entire conversation on Twitter. Therefore, the entire commentary community on Twitter absolutely lost it. People were calling me the scum of the earth, saying things like, well, it's Thanksgiving, don't you have a family to spend time with? Which is funny to me because A, it doesn't take that long to post screenshots on Twitter, and B, wasn't it Thanksgiving for you too? Unless, you don't live in the US, but my point is, I don't have a family, because Turkey Tom broke into their house and called them the N-word to their face, and unfortunately, they all dropped dead. And more importantly, there's a deep satisfaction about people being mad at me for tweeting at a turkey on Thanksgiving. You can't write this stuff. Another thing that came up a lot was that I'm an SJW, which is ultimately not true, but even more ultimately ironic because the people calling me that were the ones absolutely losing it on Twitter, acting like I was calling Tom a Nazi and a white nationalist. I called him racist for saying I hate niggers. It's not that serious. The overreaction is what gets me the most. Was I overreacting? Obviously. My tweets were very mean, but you would think that a crowd who so valiantly champions their right to use edgy humor would be able to take a couple of mean tweets from some dude on Twitter without having a complete meltdown. But alas, people were also crying about cancel culture, saying that I ruined Tom's future, which at that point, you're just doing the exact same thing that you accused me of doing, which is lying and exaggerating to try to make me seem like a person I'm not. First of all, cancel culture barely works. But secondly, being criticized publicly is not being canceled. None of us lost enough subscribers for Social Blade to even register it. So either nobody got canceled or that was the most ineffective cancellation on earth. And as for me ruining Tom's future, first of all, he's publicly said the exact same things that I've shared. This isn't new information, which Tom himself referenced by saying, it's no secret that I'm edgy. Secondly, are you dumb or are you stupid? Do you really think this guy's first name is Turkey and his last name is Tom? When he applies for a job in the future, is he gonna put his edgy YouTube channel as the top line on his resume? If he doesn't, nobody's going to know it's him. 17 years old though he may be, he's obviously taken lengths to remain anonymous. And so I left him anonymous. I don't have his real name, his face, definitely not his phone number. So to the adults in this situation who are perpetuating this whole idea that I'm the scum of the earth because I exposed this 17-year-old as a Nazi by using old screenshots of edgy jokes, half of which were less than a year old and most of which contained racial slurs, and that I ruined his life because I had to be the police of who gets to say what. Do you know what it makes you sound like? A triggered, overly dramatic SJW. If you guys need a safe space where you don't have to see my scary opinionated tweets, then log off Twitter. It's actually that simple. That's what I did when I got tired of hearing stuff like this.
So my thoughts on this D'Angelo fuckhead is, how does it feel to be a complete and utter fuckhead who's literally going after a teenager and potentially ruining his life and reputation before he even has a chance to live out his life?
People were also saying this is the same as trying to cancel PewDiePie, which makes less than no sense because PewDiePie apologized and stopped the behavior for every single thing he was called on. I think the worst tweet out of all though was this one right here, once again from Nicholas Diorio. Send your audience, tell them I said things I didn't. Have them flag my Twitter down like you're clearly trying to do with Tom. Really? First of all, if I did somehow get his Twitter taken down, you realize literally everyone would hate me, right? Secondly, if me tweeting about someone and tagging them in the tweet is me trying to get their account taken down, then that means everyone tweeting about me right now is trying to take my account down. Does that make literally any sense whatsoever? You're just putting words in my mouth and it makes you seem really dumb. This same person also brought up the fact that Tom has autism. At least I think that's what this tweet is saying. It says a minor and a guy with autism. None of this guy's tweets are clear to me whatsoever, but bottom line, this literally isn't a debate about autism. And unless Tom himself wanted to come forward and say that, it's really not relevant information. If that's even true, A, it doesn't change any of my opinions, and B, there's no physical way I could have had that information beforehand. In conclusion, all of the fully grown men on Twitter overreacting and embarrassing themselves, honestly, it's exactly what I would expect from Twitter. If you're planning on making a response to this video or using any part of this video to make some point later down the line, make sure you include the majority of what I'm about to say. I'm fully aware that freedom of speech covers your right to say the N-word. This might shock everyone who wanted to write me off as some sort of SJW, but I'm quite cognizant that you can say whatever you want. Not only that, but I'm also aware of the fact that what I think people should and should not say doesn't affect people's right to say it. I'm not the moral compass, the final authority, or the end-all be-all for anything that's said online. If I was, every YouTube video would just be 10 minutes talking about how great I am and how great everything I do is. But sadly, we don't live in that world. But what edgy Twitter has truly failed to understand this past week is that we don't live in your world either. So for every crazy thing you say, there's going to be someone out there saying, I don't think you should say that. But if your reaction is to just act the same way as you're accusing me of acting, then that's really undermining your entire attitude. You use cancel culture the same way that people use the term problematic, as an empty buzzword that means something I don't like and I don't want to hear. You start picking up the same attitude as the people you're against. Triggered, looking for any and every way to discredit people because they're saying things you don't appreciate, even if that means straight up lying about them. And most notably of all, you do the exact same thing that seems to be your biggest pet peeve. Pull out your victim card, stand on your soapbox, and lecture everyone from your moral high horse about how you're not about to be oppressed by cancel culture. Do words hurt people or not? If not, say I hate niggas all you want, and I'll call you racist all I want. If they do, then we can all be more mindful of what we say. But I'm not gonna sit and let you selectively apply your logic. So my statement to all of the grown-up edgelords who sloppily came to Tom's defense is this: I can say whatever I want, and there's nothing you can do about it, whether you agree it should be said or not. I'm well aware that Tom is 17 now, and that he was 16 when he said some of this stuff, but seeing as some of it was only 6 months old, he hasn't changed, and he has a pattern of repeating it, I'm well within my right to call it out. Nobody's life is over because some tweets on the internet connected to an anonymous YouTube account. My life isn't over because you guys are calling me the scum of the earth and claiming that I ruined some child's life. And at this point, Tom is the only one who gets to decide how things play out in the future. So as for you, Tom, take ownership, dude. Either you're sorry or you're not. If you really want to be like PewDiePie or iDubbbz or Filthy Frank or any of these people, then it doesn't come with the "but I'm not really like that" immunity, especially not when you're turning 18. Playing dumb isn't going to get you anywhere. I didn't go forward with these old messages to prove that you said it in the past, so clearly you still have to be this way. I did it because after talking to your friends, it's obvious that you are still this way.
When you try and shield from the fact that these messages were a year old, it doesn't mean that you're not doing the exact same thing now. I've been in conversations with Turkey Tom, and he's the exact same as he was a year before. Doesn't mean he's not allowed to say these things if they're in joking context, but the argument of him saying that this was a year old is irrelevant because he's doing the exact same stuff now.
We both became very hypocritical in this situation because I myself have said in previous videos that if we constantly had things brought up from our past that we've said, then we would have no legs to stand on. So I should have just gathered more recent examples to prove my point, which hasn't changed, which is that you haven't changed. You're being quite hypocritical too though, because you yourself made the argument that the YouTuber Hyojin was racist for talking the exact same way as you.
Additionally, I'm not too sure that you have much room to talk about racist comments when you say shit like,
"No, you stupid fuck."
I just find it funny that she would complain about getting racist comments when she says shit like this.
It's either racist or it's not. Once again, I'm not going to let you selectively apply logic. It can't be racist comments when Hyojin says it as a joke, but only a joke when you say it as a joke. Ultimately, we both handled this situation wrong, and I am sorry for the way I tried to prove my point and how I said things. But this isn't an apology video for what I said. This video is just everything I should have said in the first place. Oh, and one last thing. This is a bit more personal. As for Tom's assertion that I don't really care about the issue and I was just using it for Twitter likes, that's the only part of this entire situation that actually hurt me. Because if you knew what kind of person I was, then you would know that I'm also using this situation for YouTube likes. Anyway, looks like I've gotten way more than 10 minutes of content out of this, so leave a like, tell me what you think, and subscribe if you haven't already. Thank you for watching, and a big thank you to my 234,000 subscribers. Okay, bye.
So pull up your pants, all niggers can dance. So dance, monkey, dance, boy, like you got both parents. Get away from my house, I pull my shotgun out. I heard you put your penis in my daughter's mouth. I don't like niggers at all. Niggers always playing basketball. I swear every nigger's so tall. I swear every nigger f***ed my mom. I don't like niggers.
By the way, when I brought out that second round of screenshots, Tom should have just said they were fake, because I would have had like no way of proving otherwise.